In this failure to diagnose breast cancer case, the radiology facility swore that a radiologist came in to examine my client. Let me share with you how I was able to show with 100% certainty that what they were saying was 100% false and they were lying. Would you like to learn what this is about? Come join me as I share with you this remarkable story. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury trial lawyer practicing law here in the state of New York. So here we have a young woman who recognizes that she has a lump in her breast. She goes to her gynecologist, who then immediately sends her off to have a sonogram done at a radiology facility. And she not only wanted a sonogram, but a mammogram and a breast surgery evaluation. So now when she goes to the radiology facility, the sonogram is in fact done. And now they tell her, don't worry, everything looks fine, go back and follow up with your gynecologist. My client says, well, what about the mammogram? They say, listen, you're too young, you don't need a mammogram, just follow up with your gynecologist. Well, number one, they never should have done that. Number two, when my client was finally diagnosed almost a year later with advanced breast cancer, she winds up bringing a lawsuit against the doctors who she believes caused and contributed to the delay in diagnosis. And during the litigation process, I had an opportunity to question the supervisor from the radiology facility. And I established from the supervisor that when a patient has a palpable lump in their breast, in other words, they feel it, and now they do a sonogram and the sonogram is negative. In that instance, in every single case, the radiology facility requires that a radiologist come in and physically examine the patient's breast. They want to do a physical examination. They want to confirm what this lump is. And then they go ahead and do another sonogram. This way they can correlate what the technician did with what the radiologist did, and the radiologist is supposed to be an experienced doctor who specializes in interpreting and reading these sonograms and mammograms. What was fascinating is that I had an opportunity to question the sonogram technician, who told me that yes, the radiologist did in fact come in, examine my client. And now I also questioned the supervisor in the same facility, and she also said the same exact thing. Now here's how I was able to prove definitively that they were both lying. Whether they were doing it intentionally or just didn't know, I can't tell you, but I will tell you that they were both lying. So here's how I did it. I began to ask them questions about their policies, their procedures, and I established that in every single case where you have a young patient who's got a palpable lump in her breast, that now the sonogram shows absolutely nothing, that the radiologist must now come in and examine a patient. And if they do not come in, that would be a clear violation from the standards and policies and procedures put in place by this radiology facility. So here's what I did next. I said, isn't it true that when a doctor goes ahead and physically examines a patient, good medical practice requires that the doctor writes a note about their examination? Yes. And if a doctor writes a note about the examination, you would expect that that note would be in the patient's chart, correct? Yes. And would you also agree that once a doctor examines a patient and now writes a note in the chart, that now when we ask for copies of those records, that information would be contained in the patient's records, true? Yes. And back then you had electronic medical records, is that true? Yes. And you had computer stations in each and every exam room, correct? Yes. And in each instance where a doctor examined a patient, they would be able to easily access the patient's account, make an entry in their chart, explaining what their examination consisted of, what their findings were, and what their intentions or prognosis was based upon what they observed. True? Yes. And I got that information from not only the sonogram technician, but also the supervisor in the radiology facility. So now I take it one step further. Ms. Sonogram Technician, can you show me where in this record there is any evidence whatsoever of any doctor making any note about any physical examination? No, I can't. Then I ask the same question to the supervisor. Ms. Supervisor, can you show me where in this entire patient chart a doctor made an entry in this record? No, I can't. Is there any notation anywhere that a doctor examined this patient? No. Is there anything to indicate that a doctor reviewed the records? No. Can you show me or confirm where a doctor came in and examined my client? No. I want you to assume, Ms. Supervisor, that my client has testified previously in response to your lawyer's questions that at no time while she was here in this office did any doctor, a radiologist or anybody else, ever come in and physically examine her, put their hands on her, or even talk to her while she was here. I want you to assume that information to be true. Do you have any reason to disagree with my client's testimony that what she is saying actually took place? No, I don't. And then she again tried to get into an argument with me, claiming that that's what would have occurred. I said, can you show me anywhere any confirmation, any proof to support your claim that this in fact occurred? And the answer was, no, she couldn't. So why do I share this great information with you? I share it with you to give you an insight and an understanding to what goes on into the discovery process in a failure to diagnose breast cancer case here in the state of New York. You know, I realize you're watching this because you likely have questions or concerns about your own particular matter. Well, if your matter happened here in New York and you do have legal questions, what I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I can answer your legal questions. This is something I do every single day and I'd love to talk to you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at oginski-law.com. That's it for today's quick video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have an incredible day.